So if you guys didn't know, the state of Virginia just elected a Democrat, Abigail Spanberger, for their new governor. And that is making everybody wonder if she's going to pass the new recreational cannabis laws for the state of Virginia, which she announces she is, starting January 2027 is when that'll be active. Now, before you guys get all super excited, there's a couple of things I want to break down in this video that might make you rethink not just what Virginia is doing, but the laws that have already been written. Okay, first and foremost, let's tackle the elephant in the room, and that's the thumbnail, where I'm comparing the daycare fraud with the Somalians in Minnesota to what could possibly happen in Virginia. And the reason I'm doing that, because if you guys haven't been following that story, there's a young YouTuber, independent journalist named Nick Shirley, who just exposed a whole bunch. It was, I want to say, $2 billion in fraud in the state of Minnesota, where they were getting state funded money for all these daycares, but they weren't running any daycares. And 98% of these cases were Somalians. A lot of reporters are trying to twist the story and make it out like this Nick Shirley kid is being racist, just targeting the Somalians. But the numbers don't lie. If 98% of these fraud cases were Somalian, to me that seems like an organized event, kind of like organized crime. But the other statistic that Nick brought up when he actually had to testify in front of Congress the other day was, when you look at the states that are having these huge fraud issues, they're Democratic. I'm not trying to make this red or blue or Republican or Democrat or anything like that, but the fact of the matter is, California, he's investigating Gavin Newsom now, the governor of California, where there's been over $30 billion in fraud for homelessness programs. Okay, and that's a Democratic governor. So that right there automatically raises a red flag towards Abigail Spanberger. I don't care what party you are, if you're going to pass the right law. Now, what the Republicans need to consider, if they're going to use this argument that this change in the cannabis laws for the state of Virginia is just going to open up the door for fraud, my suggestion for you guys is, why don't you write an actual bill that doesn't prevent, or that can stop the fraud from happening and actually favors the cannabis laws, instead of this SB 542 bill, which is just the same bill that's being copied and pasted from every other state. Now that I got the Minnesota thing out, let me break down why I don't like what's going on in my state of Virginia, because I live in Virginia, and I don't trust Abigail Spanberger. And it has nothing to do with her being a Democrat or her being a Republican. The fact of the matter, I think Abigail used the cannabis industry in passing that law simply for vote bait. Just like clickbait on a thumbnail, she wanted votes, and she knew tackling the cannabis industry in the state of Virginia would definitely get her the votes and push her into her office. And guys, it worked. But when you look at what she's already proposing, you have to ask yourself, at what cost? At what cost, do we vote Abigail Spanberger in just to get the weed laws? Because when you look at some of the laws that she's also trying to pass, it's kind of crazy, guys. And I don't agree with actually any of them, and especially the cannabis laws. And I'm going to break down why, and I want to bring up how this fraud that you see in Minnesota and the fraud that you're seeing, or you're going to see, out of California could absolutely happen in the state of Virginia with the cannabis laws. First and foremost, Virginia is probably one of the richest, especially the northern Virginia area around DC, Alexandria, Fairfax, and Loudoun counties, and the Great Falls area is probably one of the largest concentrations of wealth next to the Hamptons in New York City. There is a lot of money in northern Virginia, guys, simply because DC exists in the state of Virginia. And I always tell everybody, I was like, everybody has to pay taxes, but guess where they get spent first? DC. And DC resides in Virginia. So there's a lot of money sitting there. And when you look at cannabis right now, it's a $32 billion industry just in where it's sitting now. So the more states that come on board, it's going to open that industry up to be probably over $100 billion industry. So there's a lot of money to be made. Now, what you need to realize is, once these laws pass, it's going to open up doors like new research, grants, and the social equity programs. Let me talk about that, because the one thing I've been preaching is how all these laws, this SB 542 bill, is designed to do nothing more but help big canna, big business, big pharma, big agriculture. They're trying to push the small-time home growers and hobbyists like you and me out of the picture. And the social equity program is a prime example of that. Now, if you don't know what the social equity program is, basically it states, if you had a felony conviction over cannabis in your past and you had to serve, time for it, that because you serve that time, you have equity in the program, meaning you get a reduction on the fees that it's going to cost for licensing. Now, as of right now, I'm expecting it to be 5 licenses for my state, just like most states, at $20,000 a piece. So that's $100,000 for somebody just to get all their licensings. Now, let's just assume for a minute that you do qualify for the social equity program and that is reduced, let's say 75, 80%. What you have to realize is somebody that got a felony charge in the past and did prison time for cannabis probably isn't sitting in the same financial scenario as somebody that, I don't know, owns a multi-billion-dollar company already. Something like Hello Beyond, these MSOs, multi-state operators. These are the companies and businesses that are already existing in other states like Michigan, Oklahoma, California, Nevada, and stuff like that, where cannabis is already legally for recreational use, but they're just waiting for the doors to open to step in and push all the small guys out. So the social equity program is this like little reward for what you did, but when you look at the full equation of how it's going to pan out, you're just going to get pushed out anyways. And there's a lot of red flags of how system is set up, because what I expect you to see coming is basically Virginia has the Cannabis Control Authority, Cannabis Control Authority. That's going to be the intermediary of who dishes out these licensings and whatnot. But I guarantee you, and you can quote me to this, you're going to see cannabis consulting firms come in. And once you see that cannabis consulting firm's name over multiple licenses, that's a red flag for fraud. And what do I mean? Because what I expect to see is multiple LLCs, multiple shell companies, ghost companies, LLCs, like the Minnesota fraud, just buying up the licensing and using the consulting firms in order to get certain funding, like new grants or whatever. The opportunity for the exact same kind of fraud is already being designed in the cannabis laws. And what's even crazier is so many people are so eager for the recreational sale of cannabis for adults that they're just pushing it through and they're not really taking the time to look at it. And I'm not blaming the Democrats for that or Abigail. Well, actually, I am kind of blaming Abigail Spanberger, because I've actually written her a letter asking her questions of how she intends to help the cannabis hobbyists and small-time growers with the same opportunities as, the big MSOs. And I understand we live in a capitalist country, but guys, the way it's just like Walmart. And my short video, and I am going to do a whole deep dive video of my Walmart a weed concept. But when you look at the Walton family, they're worth over $300 billion. And when you look at what the Walmart Corporation does when they come into towns, they completely eliminate small local economy. And that's not cool, man. Buying local and supporting local is the way to go. And also, let's just be real, the quality of Walmart is shit. So, but it's all about cheaper prices and, the convenience. But just like you're looking at the cannabis laws in Virginia, yes, you're getting the laws, but look at the laws that are coming on the coattail of that bill as well, because I don't think you're fully understanding and you don't want what you're asking for. I mean, yes, you want recreational use to be legal and, recreational sales, but at what cost? I would rather have a proper bill written. And that's when I'm, kind of looking at the Republicans, like, let's be real. You guys aren't going to sit back and pass up on $100 billion industry. And if you guys wanted to embarrass the Democrats, you would write a better fucking bill towards cannabis that would support local growers, local small-time growers, like micro licensing, allowing small-time growers to sell directly to consumers, canopy caps, and just stuff like that. But you guys aren't doing it. You're just letting the Democrats run with this, waiting till they fuck up, and then pointing the finger. And in all hindsight, you could have did better months ago. So before you guys start getting excited about all that, just rethink it, do some research, check it out, and look at your state's bills too, because all your state's cannabis control commissions or authorities or whatever office they have, you need to see who's on those boards too, because there's going to be some grease palms, man. There's a prime opportunity for bribery, corruption, and fraud, and especially in the cannabis industry. And what's sad about it is, as much as they're pointing the finger at like this black market problem with cannabis, they're kind of the ones creating it, especially in Maine, where you see Chinese organized crime and Chinese mafia dominating the cannabis industry. As of right now, the way these bills are set up, there's nothing stopping those same criminals from getting multiple shell LLC ghost companies, if you will, buying up all the licenses and continuing to do exactly it is what they're doing, and it's dominating the business and just ruining the cannabis industry. And another thing is, when you look at my comments, especially from the people like in California and the West Coast, like Oregon and the states where things have been legal already for a long time for recreational use, they're already admitting this is exactly what's happening and what I'm saying. So if you guys haven't done so, ring the notification bell, give this video a thumbs up, and subscribe to the channel, because I'm going to do a couple more videos. I'm going to break down how Abigail Spanberger could actually set up a system that would promote local, Virginia home-time growers, small-time hobbyist cannabis growers, and would support local economy better than what they're doing right now. And I'm also going to break down the whole Walmart video. So it just takes me time to film, guys. But that's it for the day. We've got this major snowstorm Fern. Haven't lost power yet. My plants are still doing pretty good. So guys, that's it. Stay green, keep growing. Peace.